Thanks for tuning in to this week's City Council meeting. I'm Caitlin Coolidge. Athens City Council met Monday night in regular session to discuss ordinances for third, second, and first readings. The meeting began with communications from President Chris Knisely. Council is in receipt of a notice from the Ohio Department of Liquor Control that Big Mama's Burritos has applied for a name change on their carryout permit to Athens Burritos. Next, she announced a meeting on this Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. at the Community Center where City Council members and City administrators met with all City commissions and boards. City Council will also host a luncheon with Ohio University President Nellis and his administrative staff on February 26th at noon at Arts West. Lastly, she said the Athens County Historic Preservation Commission submitted a grant application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and has requested a letter of support from the council. This will be further discussed next week at the Committee of the Whole meeting. Member Costas announced that on Thursday, February 21st, there will be a regular school board meeting at 6:30 p.m. at Athens High School. He also said East Elementary will be having its PTO meeting at 5 o'clock p.m. this Wednesday, which is today, February 20th, where time will be allowed for public input on the new school building plan. Mayor Patterson reported a street closure on College Street between East Union and Washington due to a sewer line collapse. The street will open to traffic once the job is completed. Lastly, he informed the council that the Mount Zion Baptist Church Preservation Society has asked him for a letter of support for their application for funding from the Department of the Interior. Next on council's agenda were ordinances for third reading and adoption. The first was authorizing the purchase of softening salt for the water treatment plant. This was introduced by Councilmember Butler. Next was an ordinance closing East Union Street between Court and University Terrace on Saturday, April 6, 2019 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the 51st International Street Fair. This was introduced by Member Costas. Costas also introduced an ordinance authorizing the Surface Safety Director to enter into LPA State Project Agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for bridge painting on US 33. Member Fall then introduced an ordinance amending Title 15 Taxes, Chapter 15.01 Income Tax, Section 15.01.13 Board of Appeal. She then introduced an ordinance granting a perpetual easement to Ohio University to permit installation of certain utility conduits on the city's Station Street property. All ordinances were passed. Then, the ordinances for second reading were read by President Knisely. First was an ordinance amending the 2019 appropriation ordinance, which was introduced by Member Reisner. The rules for this ordinance were suspended because the city auditor indicated that the interfund transfers need to be in place by the end of the month. Next was an ordinance amending Ordinance 142-18, staffing levels. Ordinances for first reading were next. The first ordinance was to extend the pilot residential curbside compost project through June 30th, 2019. This was introduced by Member Butler. Butler said there was been a request to expand the program by an extra 35 residents during this extension, and that it will not include any additional cost to the city. Member McGee questioned how curbside composting can be made available to those living in apartments. An ordinance closing a portion of Court Street between Union and Washington on August 3, 2019 from 8 a.m. to midnight for the Bounty on the Bricks fundraiser was next. This was introduced by Member Costas. Member Costas then introduced an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting to allow vending in a designated area on August 3rd during the Bounty on the Bricks fundraiser. Finally, Costas introduced an ordinance to amend the ordinance for construction and engineering services for the Richland Avenue pedestrian passageway project. The administration has requested to increase the appropriation and expenditure by an additional $429,864 for the project. He also noted that the construction timeframe has been moved from 90 to 147 days. Mayor Patterson informed the council that he met with the Ohio University administration last week, and the university will be providing an additional $150,000 towards this project. The mayor's staff will also be applying to ODOT for a grant from the Transportation Improvement District that, if granted, could provide an additional $250,000 to the project. Member Butler supports this project as the current crosswalk is dangerous and the passageway under Richland is needed for pedestrian safety. Members McGee and Grace registered their concern that several of the city's projects have gone over the initial construction budget. Next on the agenda was announcements and other business. President Nisley announced that all committees will be meeting next Monday night, February 25th. Next, the city's Poet Laureate, Carrie Gunter Seymour, was appointed for a second term. The auditor's January 2019 financial reports were also accepted. And lastly, Member Grace moved to appoint Athens resident Zach Rises to the Affordable Housing Commission, representing renters. Council approved his appointment. If you would like to watch the full meeting, head on over to our Facebook page or YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Caitlin Coolidge.